So on Friday, I was blind in your class, and I went around the whole entire school blind. I was just wondering, have you ever like had a student who was like visually impaired or
I have not had a student that was visually impaired before,
ever?
ever.
All right, have I ever had a student who is blind? No. Have I had a student who is visually impaired? No. I have had students that have had vision problems.
But like not past like legally blind kind of thing. What about like tunnel vision or like?
No, I haven't.
Never. Have you ever had a student who was blind or visually impaired?
I have not.
Never.
No,
In all your years of teaching.
I haven't. I've had students who are deaf, but I
Did
haven't.
have a student who was like blind. Do you know like what accommodations you would do and like?
Well, you know, I think the big thing is that you would have to have all the books in Braille, right?
Yeah.
As well as probably books on tape, you know, to assist
Mm-hmm.
with that as well. You don't know what other kinds of learning accommodations the student might have in addition
Right.
to the blindness.
Right,
You know,
right.
I guess.
What we would be doing is that we would be notified, and we would be notified by the child study team about what we could do to improve the educational, background of that situation.
Right.
So if that situation did arise, I would be notified, and then I would be able to get any kind of resources from the child study team, whether it's training or whether it's the appropriate techniques
Right.
to utilize. So if I did have that situation, I would be informed.
Would it be uncomfortable? What I want to know is I would want to know what is it that I can do that I can help, that I can use to help the student.
Okay.
What kind of accommodations do we have to have, et cetera, and help me to help them.
Right.
That's what I want to know. So I would want to be in touch with, that's why I was saying I would look to the child study team, who I would assume would be in contact with the Commission for the Blind or whatever. But I like to talk to people one-on-one, if I could have that opportunity to do that with somebody who's very experienced in that, because that would help me understand why certain equipment works, why certain things help. Is there a tiredness factor to using that equipment?
Right.
Is there a fatigue factor?
Friday. Did you find yourself like teaching differently or?
But I do remember reviewing the steps and what was required
Right.
verbally.
Yeah.
In probably, I attempted to make it more clear, knowing that you couldn't see
Right.
the sheet that everybody else was looking at. So let's go through.
Absolutely.
Right.
One thing that I was making sure I was doing with you being in the classroom was I made sure I enunciated everything. Because math is
Right,
a lot
right.
of, math is very visual. So I made sure time I went through a step in solving the integral,
Yeah.
I made sure I verbalized it very, every single step, rather than just assuming that everyone knows what I'm doing because they can see it. So
Yeah.
I made sure that I was verbalizing everything, just so you could understand what was happening in the
Yeah.
class.
Reading kind of thing.
We did the reading, but what obviously I needed to do was to make sure that you had a
I
partner.
understand.
The good thing there was that you had a student who was so mature next
Right.
to you that she didn't even need to be asked.
Right.
Right? But I would have had to ask a student to make sure that you were read to.
Would you ever be nervous about having a blind student?
I think it would always be a little bit nerve-wracking at the beginning,
Yeah.
but then you would figure it out, and it would become great.
With me being, I know it's only one day in class, but like with me being in class, do you feel more comfortable or like non-changed?
It's opened my, it's
Okay.
really opened my experience in the sense that this, students, there are students that have their learning styles in all different, a variety of learning styles. So
Right.
this really has, enhanced my learning experience
Right.
of that aspect, and you really have kind of brought something to my attention that I will probably need to do someday, and so definitely I have, you've helped me in that situation. So thank you. So it was great.